Sharp Game here, coming at you from ChooseYourRelationships.com. Welcome to another episode. Today I'm going to talk about some stuff that I wish I knew before I moved to Japan. And before I get into it, I'd like to say that I like Japan. This is not a bashing session. This is just me talking about what would have made a difference before I went. Because you have to understand, when I went to Japan, I was 20 years old. This is my first time leaving the country, and I didn't know anything. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't even know where Japan was located. But just based on my experience, my perception, what I would say is, Japan is a white European colony. It's an island. That's basically all it is. And there's a lot of military there. It's like everything, all the branches are there. You got the Marines in Okinawa, and you got on the mainland is Air Force, Army, Navy. Everything's there. Then you got a lot of Russians and British come in and out. And, for years, this is like over 100 years now, a lot of Japanese people have been complaining about, they want the U.S. military to be gone. They want them to get out of there. But at the same time, the Japanese people, the government, they can't defend themselves. The only other people that back Japanese people up is the Russians and, of course, the U.S. government. But Japanese people, for the most part, can't defend themselves. But at the same time, they want the U.S. military to leave. So I don't think it's ever going to happen. Not in our lifetime, anyway. Or at least until the Japanese government make an attempt to learn how to defend themselves. So, but one of the things I wish I knew before I went to Japan is, a lot of Japanese women, I think just people in general, they can be very deceptive at times, and I think this is a consistent, pretty much consistent across the board. And I think it's a part of the culture. I think I could be wrong, but I think it's a part of the culture. And because there's like a myth that the Japanese people are a lot of Japanese people are honest. There's like a perception when you get to Japan that they're honest and straightforward people, and they would never steal, and they would never do anything bad to people. But I learned the hard way. That's not true. A lot of the women that I'll put it like this: the same thing that's going on in America is happening in Japan. They just go about it in a different way. And another thing, they're good at hiding stuff. That's another thing that's very important. You have to know. They're good at hiding stuff. And I'm not saying sometimes that's a good thing. I don't think everybody should know everything about you. You shouldn't reveal everything about you. But if it's just me and you, me and another woman, even within the relationship, they're still hot. They're still hiding stuff. I mean, I think like just a lot of the women that men over there, and even a lot of women that live here in America that's from Japan. There just seems like some things they're not going to be honest about. Now, I'm not saying it's. I mean, it varies from woman to woman based on what it is, but their morals are very different than compared to us black people. Their morals are very different. And that has a lot to do with how they've been colonized. They've been colonized by whites. And if you tell most Japanese people what I just said, they'll downplay it. They'll say, "Oh no, the laws have been created by the Japanese people. They've, you're talking about my culture. You don't know anything about my culture." They'll get all emotional and everything. Their constitution was written by a white guy. And if you don't believe me, go look it up. Otherwise, Japanese people, they signed the peace treaty hundreds of years ago. They signed the peace treaty. It's probably less than 100 years since they signed the peace treaty. But I know a peace treaty was signed between them. And if you know anything about peace treaties, once you sign the peace treaty, you, by default, give the other country permission to come in your country and trade and do business. That's what it is. That's what a peace treaty is. You're giving the other country permission to come in and do business and stop fighting each other. So, in essence, you're surrendering. You're surrendering your land over to the other country. Now, if you tell that to most Japanese people, they would say you're a liar. You don't know what you're talking about. But all you got to do is just go look it up. Tell them to go look it up. Tell them to go to their library. Go to their courthouse. The evidence is there. Because a lot of the Japanese people, they get caught up into their culture and have so much pride and ego. But I always ask them, what have your culture done for you lately? I guess no answer. Plus, a lot of the Japanese girls over there, a lot of Japanese women really have no say-so in anything that happens in society, because Japan is a male-driven society. So a lot of the girls over there are looking, a lot of the older women, older meaning 30 plus years of age, because that's considered to be an old lady if you're 30 plus in Japan. So a lot of these women are looking to marry out a foreigner, or if she does get settled down or get married, the Japanese guy has to be 50 plus. And there's always an exception to the rule, but most Japanese guys don't want a 32-year-old woman. They don't want her. That's used up goods. They don't want that. There's always exception to the rule, but for the most part, they don't want that, because most Japanese girls used to get married early. But today, that's starting to change. most Japanese girls aren't getting married at all. Most Japanese people just aren't getting married at all. And they're not really having a lot of kids at all. But they used to get married early and have kids early. So if a Japanese girl is 32, 35, if she doesn't get married to a foreigner or get married to an older Japanese guy, she's probably going to be single for the rest of her life. So right now, you can go to Japan. There's a bunch of 35, 40, 45, 50-year-old badass Japanese women, single. And they probably haven't had sex in 5, 10 years. Believe it or not. So, and another thing I learned about hanging around the military bases is like, it's a lot of older girls that hang around the military bases. And they're trying to get with the military guys, take advantage of the younger guys, because the majority is younger guys in the military overseas. And a lot of these women are 30 plus, and they know that these younger guys don't really know what's going on in Japan. So a lot of them, they want to get married. They want to settle with the military guys to get benefits. And they'll manipulate the younger guys. And I mean, it took me about 2 years to figure out why so many older women are hanging out around the base Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night. I wish that somebody would have told me that, because I wasted a lot of time with a lot of these older women. If I would have known what I known today back then, I would have got on the train and went to Tokyo and met the younger, fresher, attractive Japanese girls that's probably well off financially, physically, mentally, spiritually. But I wasted 2 years around the women that hung around the base that pretty much been ran through 10, 20 years before I got there. But you live and learn, you know? And there's just different types of Japanese people. You know, like what the thing you have to ask yourself, that I didn't, because I didn't know, is you have to ask yourself, how's the average Japanese person doing in Japan? And a lot of people think that everybody's living like kings and bosses in Japan. But that's not true, because the cost of living in Japan is high as shit, right? And there's not a lot of jobs for people in Japan, because it's very crowded in Japan. And you know, they got the trains and they got public transportation and all that shit. But a lot of the girls are looking for a way out. They're not loyal to Japanese guys like that, even though you will never hear anybody talk about it. You know, because again, they're good at hiding stuff. Certain things are just taboo over there. They don't talk about a lot of things. They don't express themselves very much. A lot of Japanese women don't get comments about how they look. And they don't show any emotion either. They don't show any emotion. So you have to figure out on your own if a Japanese girl likes you, because they function like robots in society. Really. They just kind of get in where they fit in. If it's like if you want to date her or if you want to go somewhere with you, you're pretty much gonna have to take the lead and figure out if she likes you or not. And that's gonna be very difficult. And especially Japanese guys, they can't take rejection. They don't take rejection very well. So if you're a woman coming from another country trying to date a Japanese guy, that's going to be difficult. That takes some time to get used to, because like I said, they don't take rejection well, and they're not used to rejection, because they function like robots in society. The women do what they want, because it's like the women are very shallow. So if they're attracted to the guy, they pretty much gonna do whatever. For the most part, they're gonna do whatever. They just have to be attracted to the guy, or they have to be, or at least be interested in the guy. If none of those two things coexist, interest or attractive, she ain't gonna roll with you. She ain't gonna rock with you, because they're very shallow women. If they're not attracted or interested in you within 10 seconds, forget about it. And these women have to be into you. Otherwise, the relationship is not gonna last very long. That's how it is. These women don't let you in. You won't get to know them unless they're into you, unless they really like you. Otherwise, you're not gonna get anywhere. It'll be a short-term relationship. You just be her good time dude, or she'll be your good time girl. Which, I'm not saying anything wrong with that, but that's something I had to figure out when I got there. It took me a while to figure it out, because I thought the women over there were like the women in America, but no, they're not. And the reason why that is because they don't show any emotions. So if someone doesn't really show any emotions, it's going to be very difficult to pick up on certain things. And they don't really get very excited about anything, And I think it's how they've been socialized in society, which, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying there's other ways of going about doing things. And another thing is they don't challenge authority or challenge the system in Japan. If that's how it is, that's how it is. They just go with the flow. You're not gonna see you probably won't see a Japanese person protesting in America. That probably won't happen. I doubt it. You might see Asian people from other groups, but Japanese, no, that probably won't happen. And a lot of the Japanese girls in Japan, and even in America, their dream is to meet a foreigner. And another thing, when they say foreigner, that's code word for white. When they say American, that's code word for white. That's another thing that you have to know. But they're not going to say that. They're not going to tell you that. They're not going to come out and say that. Because again, that's one of those taboo subjects. And there is such thing as whitewash in Japan. I've seen how a lot of Japanese people act or react, I should say, when white people come through the door or when they meet a white guy, blonde hair and blue eyes. If you got blonde hair and blue eyes and you live in Japan or visit in Japan, sky's the limit. You know, anybody else, you probably gonna have to talk a little bit more. You know, because the thing about Japan, they don't dislike you just because of the color of your skin. They dislike you because of stereotypes or because of what the parents told them, which mostly is incorrect, or something they heard, you know, or a lot of times the parents selfishly want them to date or marry the person that they want because they shit ain't together. That happens a lot too, because family to Japanese people is very important, and there's a lot of honor in that, and this goes back hundreds of years. But the only problem with that is a lot of the sons and daughters know that what the parents are saying is bullshit. At the same time, they're not going to go against the grain. They probably not going to like do anything that their parents would dislike, especially when they're young, in the 20s. Now, check this out. This is where shit might go right. The only way that they'll go against the grain is if she's older. She's 35, 40 plus. Then that kind of justifies why she should seek relationships elsewhere, because the Japanese guys ain't fucking with her like that. She can say, hey, well, I'm not getting any dates with the Japanese guys. She can use that as a excuse to justify why her parents should accept her with a foreigner, especially if he's black. So a lot of Japanese girls they try to be slick. They'll use that as a justification why she had to date another guy. And the parents they'll accept it, they'll go along with it, but they won't necessarily like it. Now, if you're a white guy, I don't care how old the girl is. If you're a white guy, the parents see that as a come up. Because, again, Japanese people have been colonized. It's a white colony. So, of course, it makes perfect sense why they would see white guys as a prize. Make logical sense. But, these are just a couple things that I wish I knew before I went to Japan. But overall, Japan is a pretty cool place. You probably have to downgrade your way of living, because they're not up on technology like living in North America. You probably have to, because everything is small, and if you want to upgrade, you got to pay more money. And you probably don't have access to like channels and as you would in Japan, and you won't have access to internet. You can't have like Wi-Fi. That shit is not everywhere like it is in North America. And you just have to adapt to certain things. But socially, there's a gang of women in Japan that you can meet. A gang of people. There's a lot of good people that I've met over there. So it's so many people. It's so crowded. That makes it so easy to meet women. It's like shooting fish in a barrel, really. So if you're type of dude that's thorough with your game, you can meet a lot of different women in Japan. Not only Japanese women, but women from other places as well. Even some women living in America. So like it's like fish in a barrel. You got women from India, you got women from America, you got women from Australia, you got women from Dubai, you got women from all around the world living in Japan. And if you're a confident, focused, driven guy, you can go to Japan and meet some of the most beautiful women in the world if you're thorough with your game like that. So there's a lot of pros and cons, but if you have to get to know the right people there, it pays to know the right people living in Japan. If not, it's going to be a struggle. That's how it is. And you have to be ambitious living there because the cost of living is high as shit. So if you like what you heard, check out my blog, chooseyourrelationships.com. Subscribe to my channel. Until next time, Sharp Game is out. Peace.